Okay, we're picking up the second in problem 4-7. What I've done is I've kind of gotten this basic bathroom or closet space kind of drafted in, and I have now done a bunch of breaks. And I'm going to do one by doing the breaks and one by doing the trims on this side. So I'm going to click in here. Just you can zoom. I'm zooming in, and you can see now that we've got these. I can actually do this if I want. I can do fillet and grab what I want to keep. Spacebar. Spacebar, spacebar if you remember, and if you notice I want to grab the piece out, the part I want to keep, spacebar here. If I grab down here, it's going to grab me the exterior line here, so I want to grab on the inside. So that's one way to do it. Another way, of course, is to do trim. And this time, instead of saying, once again, we're selecting between two things, I can still say screw that. Click here, click here. And I can do trim once again, screw that, grab this, grab that, grab that, grab that. So you're going to see trim and breaks are going to be relatively similar. And if you notice out here, I'm erasing with a window. I used W there so that it did not take out what I want to cross. Last, somehow we lost that 14 feet, offset 14 feet. It won't be uncommon for you to forget the 14 feet, and you'll get a visual clue. If you do that, that's obviously not right. You can use the U for undo, or you can do that up there, that undo. Oh, you could do the math if you wanted to. Do not, if you catch yourself doing the math of 14 times 12 on a calculator, think, are you being really efficient? I think that's 164. You notice I didn't put the inches there, and I hope that's right. It says 12 times 10 is 140, plus 2 times 12 is 24, 164, and that was then offset 8 back. Another case here. In this case, you notice that that line goes through, and here it doesn't. So this would be a case to do this. Break from here to here. Notice no object snaps are on. Fillet, radius 0. Grab what you want to keep. Grab what you want to keep. And you've now got that essentially done as was drafted. Now for the final piece, we're going to introduce you to the array command. If you notice, we have a bunch of little pieces that hang around out here. Got to be careful about E, W for window. You can grab explicit. You can, when you're trying to do selection sets, you can actually use W or C, or you can just use the Windows skills and tools that tell you whether something's crossing or not. Once again, for those of you thinking now, you know, in terms of the general thread here, that this is a block, so you would actually make a block, but we're not going to make a block right now. We're going to think block. And that block is located at a 16-foot offset from the exterior corner, so I'm going to go 16 feet. And 16 feet. Now if you notice, as I grab that, this outside wall has been exploded and the inside one has not. So eventually you'll see you'll want to have stuff like that on different layers. So, or explode them both, or explode one. Offset 16 feet. And so that takes you to that bottom right corner. Offset 2 feet, 2 feet, and once again fillet. Grab what you want to keep. Spacebar, 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 and you have that piece there. Now, these are column lines, I guess, if that's what these are a repeating shape, and we do a lot of repeating shapes with something called an array. An array is going to be either polar, if it goes around in a circle, or rectangular. And in this case, I will show you it both ways. First, I'll show you just copy, multiple copy, and then I'll show you the array command. The reason why I'm showing you the multiple copy is generally you're going to have to think about this being a negative distance since you drafted this first one on the right here. So I'm going to grab that, grab the things. You remember I'm zooming in. I'm left clicking, spacebar, C for copy, and now I can be very explicit. I can take it over here with my F8 on and just type in now 16 feet, and it did it. And I can type in now 32 feet, 48 feet, and then I can't remember. So I'm going to zoom out here, and oh, I didn't want to do the math. I think the next one is 64, but I can again grab across, left click on something, space bar, C for copy, and now I can kind of get used to this fact that it's from the last point. I can now say 16 feet. All right, now we can also realize that we want to copy this now 16 feet up, and we don't need to work on one individual item. We can come all the way across here. Sorry, I'm going to grab everything. And in reality, I don't need to grab something on the point, but I need to always start that way. So I'm going to left click, space bar, C for copy, and go 16 feet with my ortho on and me having nudged up the mouse. 16 feet, and then once again 32 feet. And you see that I have it all laid out. So that is using the copy with the grip edits with the move, and you're going to see there's going to be a lot of modify. Let me just show you the array. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of each of these, and just for grin's sake, I'm going to start with this piece right here. So I'm going to do this. I'm erasing a window. I'm sorry, once again we're going to try to grab first, and then I'm hitting the delete key. And now I have that piece, and here's what an array does. It repeats shapes. Usually the step before doing array is to make a block, but we're not going to do that here. We're thinking block. Array is another one of those minus commands that I believe works better than the array. I'll show you what it looks like when you use the array command. It looks something like this. You get a lot of questions popped up at you. So instead, like the view command, if you use minus AR or minus array, you get a series of logical questions. I select my objects. Rectangular or polar. Rectangular means it's going to go into columns and rows, and polar is when things are kind of going around a central point. I would say very often polar is more common than rectangular. But we're going to do at this point R for rectangular, number of rows, 3 rows, number of columns, 5 columns, distance between the rows, 16 feet, distance between the columns, 16 feet, and there you have it. So that, in the end, is in some way, shape, or form, most everything, all of the commands that you'll use, though you're going to see different flavors. Line, offset, fillet, minus array, polyline edit, if you remember putting this together and apart. And then eventually you'll see we'll be making things called regions. All that said, I'm going to just show you again very quickly the fact that this is a 2D and how quick and easy it is to make it 3D. Now we'll be doing it more obviously using kind of correct regions, but I can just grab each of these things here, grab the whole thing, and I can right click and change the properties of everything, and instead of having them just 0 thick, meaning coming out of the board, I can make them all 8 feet. Just like that. I gotta type it in correctly though. 8 feet. Now all of those objects, because they're all lines, if I do this, I'm going to go ahead and kind of teach you this steering wheel. You pull this one out and you kind of left click on the orbit here, and you can see right there it made each of these 3D. So I just want to point out how close you are. For those of you who want to start getting off on that, I've got a number of videos and lots of teaching stuff out at Students AutoCAD Community to start taking you out. We'll still concentrate on 2D drafting, but realizing that this is the segue many are going to make in SketchUp. That's the second 4-7. Obviously, I'm going to do a bunch of undos, but generally, if you want to get back to looking straight down on something, you just type in plan for a plan view. Thanks for listening. Of course, I didn't want to forget to say mine is V for view, W for window, plot view, first corner, shift right click, endpoint, shift right click, endpoint, And there you have it. I can now go to whatever view I want. I only got one defined. There it is. I zoom back in. Thanks for listening. That's problem 4-7.